I want to get more now on Greece and this huge market reaction that we're getting. I want to bring in Bloomberg best Nick Bennenbroek. He's the head of currency strategy at Wells Fargo. Nick, great to have you with us on the phone. And give me your reaction. Is this or is this not a breakthrough here?
No, I think that's quite accurate. I think it is a breakthrough because the big debate had been between the German politicians and the ECB as to the involvement of the private sector, and that was the key stumbling block to the deal. So the fact that we've now got both of those parties seemingly agreed, and that increases the confidence that we're going to get a deal, and that's the huge obstacle.
And what does this mean? All clear for what, Nick?
Well, it means it's probably all clear. It certainly buys time, in terms of Greece getting their tranche of funding in early July. It also means that, when eventually a deal is struck, the details of the deal for Greece in terms of the funds and whether that's in July or perhaps even a little later, again, there's a lot of confidence that the solution is going to be voluntary and the solution is going to be agreeable. So I think what it means is that probably we've seen the worst of this latest phase of the European debt crisis. I'm not saying that it's not going to come back, but we've probably at least got some relative calm for at least several weeks.
Of course, there are lots and lots of details, to be worked out here. But what do you understand is now going to happen to this Greek debt? If we're going to be under this sort of Vienna, as you heard Angela Merkel say, this sort of Vienna-style type of debt restructuring or debt structuring?
Well, my understanding is that, it basically involves no real change in the terms and conditions of that debt at all. It simply means that holders of that debt sort of publicly pledge and voluntarily agree that as and when those bonds mature, they essentially purchase new Greek government debt that gets issued, thereby maintaining their exposure and providing Greece with the critical funding that it needs at this point. And that's one of the reasons that it doesn't trigger the so-called credit event, which has been the key concern of the European Central Bank and some other policymakers in Europe.
Right, basically a default. But Nick, the question is, this is voluntary. What are the European leaders going to do to try to entice these bondholders to voluntarily do that?
Well, there have been some talks about, in terms of new Greek debt could be eligible for collateral for ECB purposes, whereas outstanding or existing debt may sort of fall a little bit below that in terms of seniority. There is always the moral suasion, but you raise a very good point, and, this is one of the concerns. I think this is good news in the sense that it avoids the worst-case scenario, a disorderly Greek default. It might not exactly be, perfect news. It is voluntarily, and to the extent that it's not taken up so much, or the privatization proceeds are a little disappointing in terms of the Greek government, there is, the potential or the risk that the European partners will end up, incurring more cost than they expect.
Well, is there going to have to be some, in order to get these bondholders to do this, is there going to have to be some sort of guarantee or backing, by the various European nations?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there'll be a guarantee or backing by the various European nations. That's kind of, we're talking about Greek government debt and not sort of a European-wide bond. You're probably more looking at the issues of the EFSF there in terms of something that's guaranteed by all the partners. Again, I think it's more going to be perhaps some technical details in terms of the use and collateral terms, and again, moral suasion, but I don't think we can sort of look at necessarily guarantees by the other countries.
Germany, as we know, was trying to force debt holders to extend those maturities, and that's basically what they gave up. In the end, do you think that was the right move?
I think probably at this point, yes. Given the difficulties that Greece and some of the other European countries face, there is really no great solution. But I do think that in terms of avoiding a disorderly default or more volatile markets, I think that was probably a good call at this point. And the concern would have been contagion. And I just think that some of the other countries, and particularly Spain, for example, the budget dynamics at this point are still a little uncertain that trouble in Greece could have had significant ramifications for the other countries at this point in time.
Okay. Nick, great for you to join us. I appreciate you joining us on short notice. That was Nick Bennenbroek.